questions at any point. I just finished with my 1.5 stream, and there were like 50 kids in there from all grades, and so it was kind of weird. I think a lot of stuff was happening in the chat, and combining seventh graders and ninth graders is maybe not a great choice. But our class is much smaller, so there should be no issues with people leaving their mics on or anything. All right, so today we're going to do a chapter 9 and 10 crash course. So this is really, really important for people who have been using computers in third period. This is going to be kind of tricky for you guys. For like proper 2.5 kids, the next few weeks will be kind of like review. So it should be easy, actually. But it doesn't mean that I don't want you to put forth effort. You guys have a chapter 12 homework assignment due tomorrow night. Computer kids in third period, I would really wait till tomorrow's video to try those translations, because that's chapter 12, which I'm going to give a crash course on tomorrow. So the idea, as you can kind of see, is we're going to rush through 9, 10, 11, and 12 all this week. And next week, we're going to do 13 and 14. And so 2.5 kids, don't worry. We're still going to finish the textbook this year. But I think this is the best option. We'll get computer kids in third period off of computers. Unfortunately, second period computer kids will have to stay on the computers. But like a really good handle on all the vocabulary and grammar that accumulates, so that you guys can re-enter the 20s, as in the chapters, much more kind of comfortable with the vocabulary and stuff. All right, the important thing for this week, for 1.5 kids especially, 1.5 kids, I will curve you. I promise I'll kind of constantly or consistently curve your quiz grades, especially your translation quizzes going forward, because you're going to be rushing through a lot of chapters that other kids have had a chance to take much more slowly. But I believe in you. But what y'all really want to focus on, and this will be a little easier for 2.5 kids, is that on Friday, I'm going to give y'all a quiz on all 3 of these sets of words. So I'll drop these in just like a post for 2.5, so you have them. But that's probably your main goal for this week is, do those lectiones. It'll be really hard for computer kids, and it should honestly be familiar to non-computer kids. But this vocab is what you really want to look at. Again, I'm going to be a broken record, but 2.5 kids like this should be pretty easy for you. But part of the reason I feel okay about going back and doing a review with all this stuff is because of y'all's issues with some vocab words. So it's useful for you too, and don't think that you're going to get an A on it just because, these are technically chapters that we were doing last fall. So anyway, let me just go through them real quick. Locus, that's easy, like location. Morbus is disease. You're going to get that mixed up with a word for death. Studium can just be study. That's easy. Hic and illa we'll talk about a lot. And then we have a bunch of adjectives like alias, alter, both mean kind of other. Neuter means neither, literally just neither. Totus is whole or entire, like total. Allus is any, whereas nullus is none. Unus is one. And those last ones are inem, you're going to forget, but that's just a conjunction. It means like, in fact. Okay, chapter 10. And again, hopefully you guys have your textbooks, because that'll help a lot. But if you don't, well, then I'll we have these, so I'll definitely dump these into the posts. Let's see, some easy nouns here. Nothing too hard with those nouns up top. Quonium is weird. I think that shows up in your homework. It means since. Cum, that's it's weird. They would make you wait till chapter 10 to get that. And you get a lot of fourth conjugation verbs chapter, because that's what they tell you about the fourth conjugation. And then chapter 11 is a small amount of words. These are mostly pronouns. We'll talk about them tomorrow mostly. But yep, I'll pick 15 of these for your quiz on Friday. All right, chapter 9 summary. This is just going to be taking notes, guys. I'll get through it as quickly as possible. But if you have anything to say, please chime in. It's like the opposite of my last class. My last class was like kids were leaving their mics on, and you could hear people like doing dishes in the background. It was crazy. So chapter 9. So 1.5 kids. It's good that we did get you up to chapter 8, because now we're going to push forward really quickly. We're going to accelerate you. So I just need you guys to like really kind of do what you can to absorb this information. Don't just brush it off. I had a lot of computer kids like asking me to combine the classes. So this is how we have to do it. This is the only way. But you can't just like not keep up with the information. So in chapter 9, you get a whole bunch of pronouns, or you start to get a whole bunch of pronouns starting in chapter 9. They kind of wait until the tens, the double-digit chapters, to start giving you all these pronouns. Chapter 9, you get some, then you get more in 11. You get relative pronouns and reflexive pronouns, and it's a pronoun party, basically, for so chapters. And these first pronouns, so pronouns are words like this or that or he, her, I, them, etc. And these are called demonstrative pronouns that we learned about this chapter. You might not think these are super useful pronouns, but they're very commonly used in English, and so it's good to have these words. Now, as you can see, it's like each one for these two pronouns we're looking at. I'll focus on hic, hic, hoc first. They have a bunch of forms because they are gendered. There's a lot of repetition between the different genders, but the nominatives and the accusatives are different. And the ablatives are a little different, but mostly they don't change that much between the genders if you look at that. Whereas in the plural, it's pretty much the same. It's the accusative and the nominatives are different for the genders, and the genitive plurals are different, whereas the genitive singulars are the same. So this is a resource I'll make sure you guys get when we come back from all of this in December. I'll just have like a packet ready to go with all the pronouns we add, and maybe I'll even let you use them on quizzes and stuff, because it's just it's something that takes a little while, because I mean, just look at this chart. This looks so boring. But this hic, hic, hoc is how we refer to this pronoun. It just means this when it's singular, and it means these when it's plural, and it can be in any case, as you can see. So if it's just showing up in the nominative, like that's just this. Like hic would just be this, and it would probably go with another nominative. We'll look at examples of that, but it'd be like hic agricola, this farmer. Whereas hike, it's spelled a little differently if it's going with a feminine noun versus hic, veer, like man. And then we do have hoke, or hawk, rather, is what people say. So those will all just be like this. The genitive, that's huius. Okay, so start to get used to this weird genitive ending with the ius. For some reason, pronouns like to end that way in their genitive. And that'd be like of this, maybe of this man, or whatever it might be. Huic is the same for all genders. That's a dative. It'd be like to or for this. Honk sounds weird, but that is the accusative versus honk. Don't worry too much about neuters. And then hoke with the long O. Ablatives seem to like long vowels, so that's a tip off that it's an ablative. And then, yeah, in the plural, he is for like these men versus high for these women. Forum is of these, etc. So again, I want y'all to get used to these, but I'm gonna like give you resources for this pronoun so that you don't have to just like know all of these starting now. That would be a lot to ask. So that's one of the pronouns we get this chapter, and the other one we get is illa, which I need to change up here. So illa, illa, illid is, instead of this, it's that. So yeah, there's a reason why I think this is like almost the worst chapter for kids. Just as Latin's starting to get good, these pronouns come around, and they seem like such boring words to have to think about so much. But like I said, they're very common. So this works the same way. It can be gendered. So illa just showing up by itself, you probably translate it as that man. But often it'll go with a nominative masculine singular noun. So it'd be like that whatever, agricola, that farmer. Versus the feminine, we just change the E to an A. Don't worry about neuter. Ilias, again, they're ending in IUS, and that'd be like of that something. Ili is dative, so it's like a third declension looking dative. Same for all the genders. Ilum, illam, illid are the accusatives, so those change a little bit. And then illo, illa, illo are the ablatives. And then we have the neuters as well. The neuter endings all look very much like they're from first and second declension, right? Like if we're looking at these, this should look a lot like plural first declension. This should look like plural second declension. Good. And there's one more, there's kind of another version of illa, but we'll talk about it later. Okay, so just like, how does this actually work when translating? Let's look at some examples here. Hic liber. Does anybody have their mic on? What would hic liber be? Anyone? I don't expect anyone to turn their mic on, but it'd be cool. Who's in the teams? We got some people in here. All right. But hic liber, that would just be like this book, right? this book. That's all it would be. It's not really too much to this pronoun other than that there's just like way too many forms of it. That's the only thing that makes it difficult. Whereas illa liber would be that book, hoc concilium, this plan. Whereas just hic by itself, if it's not next to a nominative masculine singular, that would be like this man. You would just assume like, oh, well, since it's gendered and it's masculine, I can just add man if hic is all by itself like that. But more often you'll see it next to a noun. Yeah, I mean, this one read because it's direct object. How do you remember that hic is this and these and illa is that and those? It's a good question that nobody asked, but I think of like if something is in your hands, like something is here in your hand, starting with H, here, you would refer to it as this or these. You wouldn't like be holding something and say, oh yeah, I have that pencil in my hands. You'd say, I have this pencil in my hands. Whereas something that is further away from the speaker would be that or those. So that's like the first thing kids run into. And that's just on the vocab. It shows you on the chapter 9 vocabulary, because this or these, oh, that's so weird. It doesn't put it in the, it'd be these in the plural. And that's something you just kind of think about. Like, you don't walk around thinking, oh, what's the plural of this? Oh, it's these. But that's what it is. Whereas that's plural is those. Okay. All right. The middle column, honc civitatem. That would be this state in the accusative. Huic civitati would be like to be dative. They're both dative. You might not know that, but that's their declension dative, that long I. And that's what the dative for hic cock looks like. Hoc concilium is ablative, so it'd probably be going with some kind of preposition at this point in the book, where we don't really quite have ablatives that lack prepositions. That's something that starts happening more in the next few chapters. So, yep, that's ablative. Illa all by itself would be that woman, right? Because we would just assume the gender and we would add woman at that point. There's my illa. Ilias libri, those are both genitives, so it'd be like of that book. This one is, what is this one? I had trouble. It's nominative plural. So ista, what's the difference between ista and illa? There really is none. So I was talking about illa. Here's ista, istum. It's also translated as that. Sometimes it's translated as that of yours, but it kind of has more of a negative connotation than illa. If somebody doesn't like something, it'd be like ista Cicero, like that Cicero, or something. So that's chapter 9, basically. And you would either want to go back through this video or what else? Look at the textbook if you're kind of unsatisfied with that summary, because I will be wanting you guys to be able to apply hic and illa, especially computer kids, because I know it's new for y'all. But it's something worth reviewing for my 2.5 kids. Chapter 10 will take even less time to recap. That's where they introduce fourth conjugation verbs. So that's at that point you have all 4 conjugations of Latin verbs. And this chapter is basically not much of a chapter because these behave just like third conjugation. So if you followed chapter 8 at all, computer kids, this shouldn't be hard for you. These verbs, they end in long ire instead of a short ere, like the third conjugation verbs we got. And yeah, they form their future tense just like third conjugation. So they're mostly getting these e endings to be future tense. And then they have this really weird first person singular future. Where in the present, they're getting like I's or a U sometimes in the third plural to be present tense. That is the whole chapter. So yep, there's that verb. There's the verbs they give you that chapter. Audio is to hear, like audio. Capio is actually just third conjugation, to take or capture. Dico is to speak. Facio is kind of like ago, and that it can be way too many things, make, do, or accomplish. Fugio is to flee. Venio is to come, like veni vidi vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. We're getting perfect tense in chapter 20. Invenio is to find, and vivo is to live. So those verbs shouldn't be too hard to. I think the hardest one here is facio to remember. The other ones, there's something that can, like, they're close to an English word that might help you. Venio venire, maybe not so much, but if you know veni vidi vici is I came, I saw, I conquered, that's this word right here. All right, there's one other tiny tidbit in chapter 9, because that's literally all there is for chapter 10. So hopefully, computer kids, you're sitting there nodding stoically, knowing that this is actually very doable for you guys, that you're going to be able to jump through chapter 9 and 10 very quickly, and it won't be a big deal. Chapter 9 does have some annoying stuff, but chapter 10 has like nothing. And chapter 11 is pronouns, and chapter 12 is perfect tense. So those are probably going to be harder, honestly. But anyway, the only other thing in chapter 9 is that we get these weird adjectives that decline.
You muted yourself.
Like, did it just happen?
Yeah, you just went muted all of a sudden.
Oh, weird. That happened in my last class, and I talked to myself for like 5 minutes before some. So thank you for telling me. All right. Yeah, these adjectives are just weird. It's just these right here: alias, alter, neuter, totus, olus, unus, uter. Like I was saying, 2.5 kids. I don't think we like see them too much after. Like they show up every once in a while. So what's weird about them? Uh, all of our adjectives at this point are first and second conjugation. I mean declension rather. But their genitives for these adjectives, for some reason, they look like hic, hi, cock, and illy, illa, illa, illa's endings, where it's this IUS for genitive for some reason. And then the dative is like a third declension dative. And that's about it that in terms of them being weird. They have a weird genitive and a weird dative. That's all. Otherwise, they're just good old first and second declension. So just be aware of that IUS ending. That should start to look like you like a one of our options for the genitive, that IUS, because that's huius, like of this, and that's ilius of that, as well as for all these adjectives. So totus is whole, olus is any, unus is one. That's easy. Uter is either, as in the opposite neuter, neither.
Are
All right.
these slides on Teams?
Yeah, so I'll put these three specifically because y'all are taking this vocab quiz on Friday. That'll be like a real grade. I'll post those for sure. And maybe I could post all of these actually. That shouldn't be too hard. Cause yeah, when you're translating and you come across a hic hi cock and you're like, what the heck? Mr. Catalano just gave me like a 5-minute summary of this pronoun. That's when you're gonna want, I guess, like this. Yeah, I can screenshot this. I'll upload that. It's in your textbook, but I know we haven't been using the textbook. I'll upload ILLA as well. I know that's not amazing formatting, but there it is. And yeah, so I'll drop a post in the next couple of hours with just like a I don't know 5 or 6 screenshots from this PowerPoint. Again, computer kids specifically, the lectiones, it's gonna be really hard for you because the verbs will be in the perfect tense, and y'all don't know what the perfect tense is yet, but you're gonna find out tomorrow. And 2.5 kids gonna help you with it. And again, 2.5 kids, I don't want to nag you, but don't like blow off the next few weeks because you see that we're going back almost 10 chapters. I know that does seem weird, but again, we are going to be able to get to chapter 40 next year. And so I want to like finish really strong and have you guys like really comfortable with the material by the time we're doing that. There's no reason to rush through. So don't blow this off. It should be kind of an easier few weeks for you or whatever. But anyway, any questions about it for today? All right. Well, if there are no questions, do we have any representatives from second period? I'm not seeing them. Okay. Well, I hope. Yeah, I guess I'm not. So I need to make sure people like Prudence and Jackson know that they're in this class. All right, guys. Good luck with the e-learning. Hopefully, it's just for another week and a half, and then we'll have break and come back. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys at the same time tomorrow. This worked pretty well. So if there's no more questions, goodbye.
Tired.